And unfortunately, we don't have Vandel. He will join us next week. It's very hard to get the four of us together, but hopefully we're gonna deliver at our best today. There's a lot to talk. Versan was not here last week, so I think he has a lot to say as well. And I'm very curious to hear his opinions on the most recent unfoldings. And as I always say, right, 1 week in crypto sometimes feels like 1 year in the normal timeline, right? You don't speak for like 2 weeks and the whole world is upside down. And we can start talking about one of the most important unfoldings that have happened last week. Some people might think it's about the SEC lawsuit. I disagree. And actually, I think it's a big deal that USDT, Tether, has been unlisted already from Coinbase in Europe because Tether has not been following the guidelines for MiCA regulation in Europe. And I want to start with Versen. What are your thoughts on that? Something that we have spoken previously.
Okay, well, my God, there's so much I really want to say. First of all, good morning to everyone. Okay, good afternoon, wherever you are. But over the last 2 weeks, I really wanted to sit down and really observe the wave of information that's really being pushed at us. Okay, I wanted to start really by addressing the relentless flow of headlines and constant headlines. You guys know what I'm talking about. But these headlines, again, are designed to really manipulate our emotional responses. It's not just media overload. It's really a form of psychological warfare. And I think that's really what we're living through right now. They release just enough of the truth to bait us in so we can buy into the narrative that they're trying to sell. They try to bend our perception until we're really divided. And that's what we see happening here. We talked about this last time, called the Cloward pivot strategy. And this division feeds into their agenda. And I am going to get to what your question, but we also have an election coming up in a week and a half, I believe. And it's just critical to recognize really the importance of having a clear head, because the media is constantly just flooding us with distractions while something far deeper is really at play here. And I was reading an article the other day by the Pope. So I try to get information from everywhere. And, I don't trust what the Pope says. I know he's corrupt. The papacy is corrupt, right? But he said, and he said this, and I quote, that you guys need to vote for the lesser evil. And that in itself is such an alarming thing to say from the Pope, because it implies that basically our political choices are no longer about selecting what's good for us and good leadership, but it's about choosing which evil can we tolerate. And I hate to break it to people, but that's not democracy. But it does fit into the bigger picture of what's happening on a global scale, which is something I want to talk about. For example, a few days ago, we had the brief market panic that we saw because of the port strike, right? The media hyped up the issue. They caused stocks to plummet. I have friends who actually lost a lot of money. And the only thing was 2 days later, this whole shit was resolved shortly after. And those who did panic, they lost money. And at the same time, I was watching the markets. The institutional investors came in, they bought everything on that panic at a very discounted price. And it's not a coincidence. We know that the markets are being manipulated, and the manipulation isn't really just limited now to the economy. We're also seeing it with what happened with Hurricane Helene. Extreme events like hurricanes, the weather is also now being weaponized to force the displacement of people. So governments can come in and buy up the property and seize the land under the guise of disaster relief or climate change. So all this shit is happening at the same time, and it's all part of the grander plan. So the phrase own nothing and be happy, it's not a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening in real time. It's unfolding right before us. But at the same time, we're going to now talk about digital assets, but also the escalation in the war. All these events are really converging into what we've been discussing for a very long time. And by the way, I'd like to clarify that back in 2001, there were documents that were actually released outlining plans for a series of wars in the region of the Middle East. They started with the Iraq War from 2001. And a CIA agent actually broke this story a long time ago and said that there were plans to invade Afghanistan. That did not happen until 2008 when Obama got into office. So all this stuff was planned out. And there was a document in there that talked about the final war, which was the war with Iran. And they are setting the stage for the conflict that you see happening in real time. And it's all by design, is what I'm trying to say. They're trying to destabilize the whole world while distracting us from really the real issues. And that ties us into the monetary system. So, on a positive note, we are seeing like key global regulations for digital assets unfold. This is happening in real time. So, just look at what you said, Tether, USDT. It's being delisted by the end of the year. And this isn't not just about stable coins. It's signaling the shift, the broader shift into digital money. And that's really the backbone for the new financial system. But the end game is to push us into digitization, whether it's through war, pandemics, civil unrest. It's all part of like a bigger agenda. It's a problem, reaction, solution at best. And I think it's important to also reiterate that this is not just about financial gain, even though we're going to profit a lot of money. I've already made money on Velo. I hope you guys did too. But the end game is digital IDs, a fully digitized infrastructure, artificial intelligence governing our economies. And that's really where this is all going. Technology is being a form of control, actually. And whether people recognize this or not, I'm not kidding, guys, it is starting to resemble what people call the mark of the beast. And that's really where this is all going. So I know it's a lot to digest, first thing to talk about here. But as far as USDT being pulled, and the regulation that we see happening, they've been talking about this for a long time. You know, it's being delisted from Coinbase, which seems to be the biggest news in the crypto space, when really that's just one part of the story. If you really pay attention to the regulatory side, you'll notice that the demand for stable coins is increasing significantly. And, you know, it is a positive development to some degree. What is this? You're pulling something up? I'm sorry. Okay. So that is
positive.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Well, again, positive news, positive developments, because, you know, central banks and financial institutions we already know this, they're rapidly adopting Ripple's protocol. And as more of this corruption is exposed with stable coins, like Tether is not a stable coin, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lifeline to inflate the US dollar because of the whole bond buying. And that was recently, you know, acknowledged by the CEO of Tether. So more money is going to slowly move away from stablecoins like Tether. And it's going to go into other technologies where you have a secure, immutable, distributed ledger technology. And that's what the narrative that they're selling. More countries are going to walk away from these other stablecoins that have been out there, and they're going to go to stablecoins that are built on Ripple's ledger, Ripple's protocol. So, I mean, it's a positive thing, you know, but I mean, that's really all I can say, guys. And yeah.
Thanks, Versan. Great thoughts. I do have a lot to comment on that. And I want to hear from David. What's your perspective? And later on, I'm going to share a document that I put by mistake on the screen before, so I have to apologize. But David, please go ahead.
Well, now you guys can hear me okay?
Good. It's kind of low, the volume.
Okay, how about that? Better? A little better? A little better?
Try again, let's see.
Is your microphone connected?
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking,
okay.
Can you hear me at all or no? I'm trying.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, because me coming in, you know, kind of like after we launched, I had to do some settings and stuff. But needless to say, so with I agree a lot with what Versan is saying here, because, you know, Tether being delisted, it's interesting that Tether cannot comply with the MiCA regulations. That in and of itself says total volumes, you know. And I agree, Tether is just a you know, an extension of a lot of the central banks. It's amazing how Bitcoin's price increase and Tether just gets minted, you know, out of the blue. And, you know, like they cannot show how they're, you know, basically backing it in the way in which some of these other ones are required to do. We know that stablecoins make money. How they really make money is by taking the amounts that they have to have a certain amount for liquidity purposes, of course, because if people want to cash out or do whatever. But the amounts that they don't, which is a majority of it, 60-70% at least, gets invested usually in some sort of asset like treasury bills or something like that. And then, of course, they make money on the difference as it goes. And it's into the hundreds of millions of dollars annually, really. That's how stablecoins make money in and of themselves. But it's the liquidity they provide to these ecosystems that is truly phenomenal. I think we're going to see a lot of exchanges, platforms delist Tether, because Tether has been, in my estimation, and it's hard to, because of course, what we've watched is this kind of revolving door with Tether and Bitcoin. And to me, it just, I don't know. I don't have confidence in it personally myself, and for a lot of reasons, because they cannot handle the scrutiny of critical oversight. They can't. And that's why they can't comply with MiCA, and that's why Coinbase is delisting them and that type of thing. So what is interesting to me is the timing of things. So here you got RLUSD coming in, where it is definitely backed by US treasuries. And interestingly enough, at the same time, you're watching US treasuries being tokenized on the XRP ledger. That just seems to be a very coincidental type of circumstance, which I don't believe in coincidence. And you can see that, yes, the infrastructure for this digital asset space is being built up to ultimately is the ultimate control for nation states, right? For central banks, it's the ultimate control, because you can track every single solitary, asset that is being moved from the point of creation onward and things like that. It is not just about our monetary instruments. It's about total, like, information is power, as we know. This gives them such a wealth of information on people and their behavior and their activities, and also the ability to control those activities, right? If you don't measure up, with the right ideas, the right ideals, the right whatever, well, then your social score could be affected, which could affect how you interact with your financial instruments and your assets. Think about that. And yes, I do believe it'll lead to something, down the road towards a mark of the beast type system. I absolutely 100% believe that. You can see the handwriting on the proverbial wall. But until that time comes, there is a window of opportunity, I believe, where we can occupy, where we can actually take advantage of this transition. And it's usually at the end and the beginning of these changes where you see the most volatility and, by the way, the most opportunity. So I'm looking at it down the road like that as well. And I think you can't just take Tether being potentially delisted from all these platforms as a singular event. You have to look at it from a broad perspective of the infrastructure that's being built to manage this new digital system. That's kind of how I think.
Can I make a comment real quick? So the Tether revolving door, we've extensively tried to expose this. I mean, we don't have all the pieces, but so far we've been correct. Again, when the CEO came out and admitted that the US government was their best friend because of significant bond holdings, like, that's your proof. And what's interesting about this, it means that all countries, as you look around the world in the geopolitical area, they're all dumping dollars. They're selling off the US bonds. They're offloading their debt. And while all that's going on, the US is still using Tether as the artificial partner and printer, exactly, to much like a central bank would. And what they're doing is inflating the price of Bitcoin, which allows them to buy up the bonds. And that's why Tether owns so many of the bonds. That is artificially propping up the US dollar in the process. So what I've been trying to say is that the dollar is finished. They're just, I think, propping it up long enough to keep it strong enough just to impoverish the middle class even further by devaluing your purchasing power. And they're inflating Bitcoin, holding up the dollar. And with that money, that freshly printed money, since we cut interest rates, which is going to require us to cut even more interest rates eventually, devaluing the currency even more, they're going to buy up all the assets that most people cannot afford to hold on to. And this is all coming together. So it's not really just about Tether, stablecoins, like you said, though. This is about, again, the larger monetary shift. And Ripple's protocol is at the heart of all of it. So just stay focused on the end game, because everything we've been talking about for years, this whole community, the pieces are falling into place right in front of us.
Totally agree, Versan. And we also have to look at historical data. I would start looking at Tether being fined by the CTFC. I think it was about $30 million because they were lying about their USD reserves, right? Because a stablecoin should be backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar, which is not the case for USDT. And actually, I want to share, and I did this already one time in our live stream. It's one of the first ones. So I'm going to share the screen, and that's about Tether white paper. Have you seen that, David? I think you were not here when I shared that the first time, but that should blow everyone's mind. Okay, so this is straight from Tether white paper, and that's page 10. So you can just Google Tether white paper, and you're gonna get to this page here. And guys, this is on the white paper. I mean, you can have a look here. So implementation weaknesses, and there they are admitting some of the things that could happen to USDT, actually to Tether. So as you can see on the first hand, it says we could go bankrupt. How interesting is that? They are telling you on the white paper, right? If you see the second item, it really says that our bank could go insolvent, right? And then we have the third item, the third bullet point, which says our bank could freeze or confiscate the funds. And here comes the best one, in my opinion, especially if you look at the definition of the word. They have carefully chosen this word, which stands for we could abscond with the reserve funds. So if you look to the definition of abscond, it literally means like disappear with the funds in a suspicious way, like literally like I don't know how to describe this in a better way, right? So this comes 100% from Tether white paper. So basically that not only they have lied in the past, and now you see that Tether is actually vanishing away from Europe. And well, Europe is advancing very fast. Just let me remove this from the screen already, but I hope you guys got the point. So Europe is advancing very fast with regulations in regards to stablecoins. And I have pointed this out a long time ago, because whenever you travel here and you go to crypto events, you don't hear about Tether. And this has not happened overnight, okay? It has been 2 or 3 years that I haven't seen a word about Tether. So they have been planning this for a long time. Actually, you hear a lot about Ripple, you hear a lot about stablecoin, and talking about about Stellar. And if you want to point out for stablecoins, Circle, it's very strong. So USDC, I think, is a player that is for the long term as well, along with, of course, Ripple stablecoin. Now, the point here really comes down to you need to have a stablecoin that provides some degree of trust. If you don't have a stablecoin that is backed by something tangible, and I will go even beyond, I think it's not even enough to only be backed by the US dollar, because how is the trust on the US dollar in 2025? Well, it's decreasing. So if you're going to launch a new product which is only based on the trust of the US dollar, I think that's a product that comes with an expiry date, right? So I think the stablecoins do have to evolve, and I think that comes very tied with Ripple's interest in tokenized gold on the XRP ledger. I do think the next step to avoid the same mistakes and similar situations with what happened with the algorithm stablecoin UST, when we have the collapse that has happened overnight and people lost their life savings, not only investments, is to come out with a stablecoin that is actually backed by something tangible. And I do think that in the future, Ripple solution can be the one. I don't see any other company with the same capabilities of Ripple that could really bring a stablecoin that is really stable, because that's not the case for USDT. And I don't think real stablecoin, if it's going to be backed only by the US dollar, I don't think that's a long-term solution. I think that's just the same way as you take a medicine, but you're not treating the cause. I think the cause has to be treated, and the cause is to provide a stablecoin that's really stable, which is going to actually bring more institutions on board, for example. Institutions don't want to hold any positions in Tether unless you are crazy, right? Any additional thoughts you guys want to add on this, or we can jump to the next topic?
No, I would love to touch on it before David does, but when we're talking about financial markets, pretty much everything is still playing out the same way. We see the world, central banks, everyone's buying gold, governments, central banks, even people in China. Is my mic connected? You guys can hear me, right? Somebody said my mic's not connected.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, guys. Okay. Well, even the Communist Party of China, they were telling their people to go buy gold. You think that's an accident? Absolutely not. They know the dollar is going to collapse. All currencies around the world are going to be affected and will soon follow as a result of this because we're still the reserve currency. And that's going to result in the monetary reset. So everything you see playing out in real time is just the stage being set. Countries are selling off their dollars, de-dollarization. They're putting alternative systems into place like Project Enbridge and other initiatives, which are, by the way, interoperable with the XRP ledger. They're printing more money. It's all part of the plan, ladies and gentlemen, to devalue currencies globally, usher in this new financial system. But in doing so, they're also stealing your purchasing power in the meantime. So like this is hurting the everyday average person with a predetermined solution afterwards. So as far as stablecoins are, you see an increase in demand since last year, 50%. The demand and regulation for stablecoins is being pushed. It's now coming to light. They're strategically releasing all this stuff, even though I believe this has been resolved a long time ago. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a prediction, and I don't normally do predictions, but the drama that you see happening with the SEC and Ripple, hence the title of this video, is the prelude to Ripple forming an alliance with the BRICS nations. So you heard it here first, okay? That's how they're going to sell it to the people. I think they're going to make some sort of alliance with the BRICS nations, and they're already working with central banks within the BRICS nations. So there is already an alliance. It just hasn't been a narrative that's been sold yet. And that's going to give more power to the BRICS nations. And really, it is the BRICS nations that are running this economic reset. They're the ones leading the charge. The US is isolating itself with this whole SEC Ripple drama. There are multiple things happening at once. They're buying time just so they can move certain assets from one place to another, consolidate more power and wealth before they go fully digital, setting up the stage for digital infrastructures, which ties us into digital IDs, hence with the elections and the illegal immigrants coming in. So all these things are still just tying in together. While real USD, though, somebody left a comment for me yesterday on X, said that it's backed by the US dollar. And I think that's something we haven't talked about. And it's important to understand that the broader context of the US dollar's backing is by debt and liability. They rely heavily on a system that is fraught with liabilities. So we're going to see the shift. And we talked about this in 2022. They were going to start monetizing their debt on the XRP ledger. We recently saw news of this. I shared something also on X about this. So that's creating a different kind of scenario. And the transformation of everything we see happening here with the United Nations as well, and that's a whole different rabbit hole that ties right into this, is that the gradual shift away from the dollar-centric mind system, okay, the model, and bring in this new system. So I'm telling you guys, and you already know this, preaching to the choir here, but this is all being set up. And I think the whole thing is already said and done. And in the meantime, yeah, you just got to keep swimming because many people are drowning out there. And there are potential profits you can make. I mean, I told you guys I took profits from Velo when it shot up, came back down, bought some gold, and I put more money back into Velo. So I'm waiting for the next one. And since they cut interest rates, they're going to print more money. They're going to prop up the markets, including the crypto markets. The real bull market is going to be short-lived with high inflation, but it's going to be around 2025. Unless some major black swan event happens. So,
and I mean, we could very well be on the verge of one with when we see the orchestrated global conflicts on a political level that are going on. Geopolitics is playing right in. Let's remember this. Most of the military industrial complex is at the behest of these central banks. I mean, that's what's going on. We are watching, as far as I'm concerned, this is absolute theater right across the board, especially with what's been going on in Europe over the last number of many months. And, you know, it's sad because it's human beings that are being used as cannon fodder here, you know, to put forth a lot of these agendas. As far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely insane when you think about it. And, you know, like this transition that we're moving into, this new digital economy that they are moving us into with zero doubt, and they're doing it with haste for certain. You know, it just is mesmerizing that there is no way that the Federal Reserve, you know, that has held such sway around the wide world, and all of the influence that they had with the petrodollar, they know very well that it's dead. And like you said, you know, we're just it's a foregone conclusion. I like to say we haven't had the funeral yet, but I mean that is a reality of where the world is. And I would not doubt for 1 second that your prediction with Ripple interacting with the BRICS nations is 100% on target. I do believe that this is going to be a global asset. It's an agnostic asset. Remember, the X in XRP stands for agnostic, not tied to any one nation type of currency. And I do believe that we are going to see things that most people are going to be shocked by in terms of the transition. And it would not surprise me to see a Bitcoin rug pull that most people can't even fathom, you know, in this digital asset space, because it's been the granddaddy of them all. But as far as I'm concerned, it's been utilized as kind of a ruse, you know, to keep people focused over here and not really focused on what's really going on. I've never known any startup ever that had the connections and the capability to get before some of the most influential people in the financial world on earth, like Ripple did. Nope, don't know one. It is truly mind-bending, and so we'll see what's going to be happening. But I do agree. I think that we're going to see this major shift, and it's going to be geopolitical on a global level for sure.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. This is a very interesting clip.
Can I just make a point about this clip before it even starts? You see what she's wearing on her lapel right there?
Yeah.
Hey, Ripple is tied heavily into that if you were to investigate what all that is.
Yep.
An exchange, the UN's exchange, literally right there. Truly something.
Yeah, totally agree. And somebody left that in the comments. And, you know, I know this stuff already. But the thing is, this ties us into the larger narrative. In the next video I wanted to play regarding Bitcoin, top economist Martin Armstrong, he talks about this heavily. This was all by design to create the illusion, number one, that you can beat the system. Came right after 2008 with quantitative easing, financial crisis. And many people don't know this, but they're coming out with some bullshit documentary, excuse my language, about who Satoshi Nakamoto is. I guarantee you they're going to lie to the public. This is what they do. They give you fragments of truth, but they always have a twist to it. I called David the other day and I actually complained about this. Remember? I called Edo too. And I was just saying that when there's truth coming out, they're always going to do a twist to it so they can change your perception on how they want the narrative to be built moving forward, right? Because if they can get enough mass, and that's what you see happening really with the whole Trump thing, and we're not going to get into that. But the whole Bitcoin thing was created by the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes are the intelligence agencies, okay? And they wanted to create the illusion that, number one, you can beat the system at its own game. And two, that there was going to be some sort of decentralized independent money. And now what you see happening is the whole world, and I'm talking about the world that is manipulated and dominated by these very same intelligence agencies telling you Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. They tout it all day. So the majority of people who don't do the research because they're working that 9 to 5, they are stuck with the bag. And that's really what Bitcoin is, okay? XRP was always the end game. It's being adopted by all the banks and institutions. I know the Gates Foundation, that's what that symbol ties into, ties very close to what Ripple's doing too. Isn't it true, Edo? Correct me if I'm not if I'm mistaken, but 80% of the XRP is owned by the Rothschilds, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate? Something like that?
Yeah. You mean the supply?
So my point, though, is that when you listen to some of these other people in the space who believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel, people who have no answers, they always run to Q. Okay? They run to the Q. It's like, must have come from Q. That's their solution to everything. That somebody's going to come here and fix the problem. No, they've deceived the whole population on both sides for the right reasons and for the wrong reasons to create the division within a division. It's called sub-conquer. Okay? Ties us into the Cloward Piven strategy. The end game was always XRP. It is right in front of the whole world. It's unfolding in real time. The consolidation of your assets, the impoverishment of an entire class of people, and very few people are going to be able to profit long enough before this whole digital infrastructure is probably implemented on us by some sort of crisis problem reaction solution. Okay. And that's why I buy so much gold. I buy a lot of gold because in case of a situation like that, and I don't care if it doesn't make me a lot of money in a short time, even though there's an arsenal for the central banks to reevaluate the gold price, hence the stable coins by the World Gold Council, looking for a stable coin that nobody has built yet, is what they said. That's where Ripple fits into all of this, and XRP. So I want to play this clip real quick. I watched the whole United Nations. It was 12 hours, guys, and I had to divide this over 3 days. And each leader came out talking about two things: climate change, which is the larger depopulation agenda, the climate agenda. They just make it sound nice so people believe it's something good, right? New technologies, med beds. I'm telling you guys, most of that stuff is bullshit. Like it probably exists, but they're not going to bring it out. It'll take an act of God to bring it out, and they might stage that too. Anyways, all the UN leaders were talking about a new monetary system. So this is just one of them. I couldn't get all. So
we must change the rules of the international financial system and reform its governance and instruments. 2, we must shock-proof vulnerable economies by dealing with debt and liquidity in a comprehensive, development-focused manner. And if we need to give countries a shot of liquidity like we give them a shot of adrenaline to avoid them falling off the cliff of debt, then we must do so. And thirdly, we must augment financing by boosting country capacity to invest in resilience by several means, including one has been announced already, the rechanneling of special drawing rights through our multilateral development partners.
Multilateral development partners, SDRs. Very interesting language, and the devil is in the detail. So you can listen to this. And remember, XRP was never meant for retail, right?
Right.
It was designed for institutions. Now you see this trend coming up on X all of a sudden. I mean, this has been out for a long time. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts, David? I'm actually curious.
No, I totally agree.
It's not wrong,
I mean,
guys. It's not wrong.
I think that, this is, see, I look at it through a different kind of a lens. So I look at it through the lens of my critical thinking, but I also look at it through the lens of, my spiritual understanding. Because there's a different kind of situation going on here. There's the outward appearance of everything, that these are all just, plays being made, to advance, mankind into this sort of, one world utopia that they all are believing for, where we'll own nothing, by 2030 and be happy about that. That is just an absolute fallacy. The reason we'll be happy is we'll be lucky if we can even actually have food to eat. Maybe that's why, But the other thing I kind of look at is, from from where mankind has gotten from and where it is going to, this is leading, obviously, to a situation where it will give central governance, a one world system, a one world currency, a one world kind of movement. And from a prophetic point of view, that is not a good thing for mankind. That is, but that is where it's going. And, sometimes you could sit there and you can literally show people, you can connect every single dot, but because they cannot conceive, they cannot conceive of that kind of a world. They will not believe it. They behave like ostriches, and they bury their head in the proverbial sand. You listen to when they try to, present an argument, you're hearing the fifth estate. It is not their own thinking. They have no apologetic, no rationale. They cannot critically debate. And when they can't do that, you know what the very next thing is? If you can't attack the argument, you attack the person. And that is exactly where they go. And so almost any time we've taken the efforts to shine the light on these various things, what do they want to do? Well, they want to attack our ability to actually have the opportunity to express these thoughts and ideas. I mean, I recently listened to a clip where a very well-known political figure, who was a prior candidate in an election, had come out and literally was saying that if we don't control social media, we lose control. Does that ever say volumes? And to control the narrative. And the narrative is that they literally want to move us into a situation when that woman right there is talking about special drawing rights. Special drawing rights are administered through the International Monetary Fund. Now, at one point, you had Christine Lagarde, who is now the head of the European Central Bank, who at the time was the head of the IMF. Flat out utilizing Ripple's name in conjunction with a new monetary system. Those videos exist. Now, they have been, I don't know where they all are. A lot of them have been washed off the internet, but they are definitely there. And Christina Georgieva, who is now... Oh, you have it, Yeto? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
those are real.
I save all of them.
And, but they are definitely suppressing this agenda. And there is, sorry to say, I genuinely believe it. It appears to me that they're literally trying to decimate and destroy what we would know as the middle class, the rank and file. And even in periods where there's a position of what's wealth and what isn't wealth, there's the ultra elite, and they're way up there. And, from the tallest to the smallest, I kid you not, when this whole thing unfolds, they are going to cause everybody to submit. That is their goal. They want submission to this new system. They want to control not just our behavior, but literally our thoughts. Now, who is the second in command over there at the WEF? I always forget this guy's name. Horovi or Harari?
Yeah, Yuval Harari, something like that.
You listen to this guy, man, and it is practically something out of a science fiction novel and, the evil genius that wants to take over the world. He literally talks about, hey, how we can control and manipulate the mind and the thinking of the greater populace.
Yeah.
And he was saying that years before, you could see if somebody was, standing there, you wouldn't necessarily know by their behavior whether they agreed with the plan or not. But now they're going to be able to monitor our chemical reactions in our body so that they can know who's really for it and who's against it. Totally obscene. But that is what these folks are entertaining. Go watch it for yourself. It's right out there. So if you think that you're going to put the global monetary system into the hands of some of these folks and that they are not going to use it as a weapon to manipulate and control society, I think that's your wishful thinking if you don't think they're ever going to do that.
I totally agree. And sure, Edo has a lot to comment on. But after you do, there's something I'd like to add to that too.
Yeah, there's a lot to unfold. And a lot of my videos recently were about talking numbers and figures and analyzing the wallets. And to my conclusion, there is very few XRPs available for retail investors. There's this misconception of 100 billion XRPs available, but that's not inherently true. And there is an account on X, it's called XRP Wallets. And he has been doing a tremendous, fantastic work on tracking how many XRPs are available. And I actually went deep on that as well, and I started to analyze. So just for example, it was pointed out that there are about 3 billion XRPs on Binance. Okay, that's the largest exchange by holdings of XRP. But first, when you start to understand that most of these XRPs are actually not under custody of retail, but actually financial institutions that are using XRP, these XRPs are sent to on-demand liquidity. That's XRP settlement, right? So these XRPs are, most of them are, I will use the word compromised, but they're actually using for a specific purpose. So let's say that you want to go on Binance today, and the last time I checked, and I did this manually because I had to reach Binance support. I really wanted to get this information, and I wanted to know how many XRPs are on the sell walls. In other words, how many XRPs are available to buy. And just a second, I have here on my hands. So the last time I checked, and this is about 2 weeks ago, there was only about 164 million XRPs available. So if you wanted, let's say someone with a lot of money wanted to buy 200 million XRPs, that's not available. That's why I predict there will be an XRP supply shock, which is going to unfold very
Yep.
quickly. And unfortunately, and that's why I say, everyone, you must take care of your XRPs, you must take care of your cold wallets, because the amount of people that are going to be left behind. If you had an idea of how many DMs I have, because I try to answer to my best capabilities, DMs, and how many people are losing their XRPs because they lose patience and they try to find ways to actually increase their XRPs, and they just end up getting scammed. Guys, you have no idea. It's basically thousands and thousands of XRPs that are lost on a weekly basis. So first, I want everyone to be very mindful and very careful with scams. And now touching on what you were saying about this BS documentary, right? So first, they give the truth with homeopathic doses. That's what the elites have been doing. So I don't expect Satoshi's identity to be revealed by the documentary itself, even though we already uncovered the real identity of Satoshi, right? Satoshi is not a person, it's an organization. And if you guys have been following me on X, I have made tremendous threads with facts and documents. And very interesting to understand that Ripple is around since 1991 under the name of Ripple Communications, and you can track the entire history of Ripple, which is tied to the Ripple as we know today, that became OpenCoin, then became Newcoin, and then eventually became Ripple, and then Ripple Labs as we know today. But the fact is that the most relevant informations, they are vanishing. They don't want people to have access to certain informations. That's why, David, what you said about Christine Lagarde mentioning Ripple, yes, she did. I have proof. And a lot of people are going to say that's a conspiracy theory. Well, it's right here on my computer. Another interesting one is Brad Garlinghouse talking about XRP as a world reserve currency. Not only talking, but saying that that's the main purpose of the digital asset XRP. You don't hear that anymore, right? That's strange. They are trying to actually hide the narrative, but I do have the videos, I do have the screenshots of Ripple's website pointing out to XRP as a world reserve currency. So these things are disappearing, and it's good when you have access to this information, always download it. So to make sure we have it, the evidences. And now, Versan, if you want to go ahead, and I think you have a video to play, right?
Yeah, that kind of ties us into the broader narrative of what's going on the geopolitical front and how it ties pretty much into this new world order, or whatever you want to call it. But also something to expand on what David said, the SDRs. That's very interesting. And yes, Christine Lagarde has mentioned Ripple multiple times actually in the past. And like you said, the internet has been scrubbed. Google is owned by the CIA, and so is YouTube. So a lot of the stuff we tried to even put out like 2 weeks ago got taken down.
And just to add something, now with artificial intelligence, it's becoming even more difficult. Have you tried to ask AI some controversial questions? It won't give you the answer. That's the end goal. They want to control information, and that's what artificial intelligence is about.
Yeah,
Well,
and
more than
also,
that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'll make it quick because I'm seeing comments here.
Yep.
But Ripple did on their website previously, they had, what was it called? 2000. No, they said that XRP was designed to be the world reserve currency. That was their goal. And then they removed it from the website.
Yep.
So that did happen too. And the second thing was, I'm seeing a lot of comments here about the 327,000. First of all, yeah, I did that on a podcast and I did see that. My brother can confirm it. I don't give a crap what people believe. Some people are calling me a liar, but have you not seen the price glitches in the past? Talking to the audience now, there have been many price glitches. You could go look at the pictures. You could look at
Right.
screenshots from people. I don't give a crap what you believe. The truth is, there was one time in 2021 out of Japan. Like we said, the internet also has been scrubbed because after that interview went like viral, I had to quickly go find that video and just so I can like at least, get the audience to, confirm it to a degree, right? And I couldn't find it. But it was a 5-minute video, and I'm not even joking. My brother showed it to me. And like 3 minutes into the video, the price was already at like 300 something thousand dollars. It kept going up. And it was like I got goosebumps. And I kept telling my brother, like, I get it. Basically, I understand that this is going to be the reserve currency for the world.
Right.
Okay. It's not meant for peasants. It really isn't. It's meant for the institutions, the 1%ers. But that did happen. That's a real experience. I did see that. And I tried to find it, but I couldn't. So
Well, what I find interesting is, with this whole change of the narrative and scrubbing information that they one time put out, and one of them was, and I have it where it talks about XRP. Ripple put out a video where XRP is going to be the bridge asset between all the CBDCs right around the wide world, and I saved that, and thankfully I still have that one that I can throw out there. But this was actually produced and created by Ripple. But beyond that, is this whole idea now that you got all of these various leaders saying, oh, misinformation, the ones that have been the greatest perpetrators of misinformation that we have ever seen are now going to champion the cause. Oh, we got to stop the misinformation. What a load of hooey if I've ever heard it. It just blows me away. And that people will buy into this narrative is just something else as well.
yeah. And the truth is, I think most people in the crypto space are very blissfully unaware of the true nature of the transition that's happening here, how the technology is being implemented, how it's being used. The whole thing in the crypto space with 27 plus thousand cryptos are, most of them are tied to Ethereum and Tether, the biggest bullshit in the crypto space, which has so much regulatory issues. And I don't know if you guys remember, like 2 years ago, there was this billionaire who got pulled over in a Bentley in England, and they asked him what his favorite cryptos were. And he said Avalanche and XRP. And then he said, what about Ethereum and Bitcoin? He's like, oh, no, those people are all going to prison. And he just takes off. That did happen, that video. I saw it surface a long time ago. I just thought it was interesting. But now with everything being exposed, including ETHgate, something we talked about 2 years ago, all this stuff was already out in the open. Was there corruption? Absolutely. Are they gonna strategically release this corruption to the public? Yes, because it fits into the narrative of everything that's already been prepared. I mean, very few people really understand how the technology is being adopted by the 1%ers for the new system. So whatever, right? I think it's an exciting time to be alive. And I do want to play this clip real quick because I have one more after this to share with everybody.
States has long wanted to knock out Iran, which it sees as then weakening Russia and making Russia's ability to control the heartland, the whole of Central Asia, much less plausible and likely. So we are moving in that direction. But we've seen a lot of, if you like, this period of hubris, the pendulum is swinging towards Israel's way, that we've seen them talking about the new world order can be seized. We see this in the United States, in Europe, but overall in Israel.
So I just, wanted to share that with everybody because I listen to everything. up and down. I listen to crypto markets. I listen to geopolitical news because, like I said, it all ties in together. Okay. So when you look at the way the world is being set, it's only being set for all of what we've talked about to unfold naturally and play out as if it would just play out naturally. So there is some positive aspect to all of this we can talk about here shortly, but I'll let you guys put your comments in and then we can focus on some positive news and like what you can do to make money. Okay.
Yep. Well, I see one person put in there, he says, I'm getting old. I don't have time to wait another 4 years. Well, the reality is there are people that are going to miss it. There are people who are going to miss it. There are people who are going to capitulate. That has happened in every single cycle we have seen thus far. When the narrative and the FUD and the disinformation that has been put out there to literally terrify people, and think about it, you're watching these major institutions buy tens of millions. The open interest in the derivative market alone topped 1 billion just the other day for XRP. The open interest, and it was for on the sides of the longs. Yet they're trying to terrify retail that, may have a few thousand bucks in it or whatever they got. In comparison to the price movers in this space, it is nothing. It is truly nothing. It is a drop in the proverbial bucket. Retail does not move this market. I am 100% convinced of that, And so unfortunately, yeah, there are folks that, they come out and they make statements like that. And, I always think of the song, well, I never promised you a rose garden along with the sunshine, and if you don't have the stomach to weather this storm, you're probably not going to make it because that is the whole intent. It was not made for retail. It just so happens, if you look back at, some of the posts by Kendra Hill, she said there will be a few people that they will let, and it's a small percentage, let's be honest, of folks that hold any really any kind of significant amounts in the retail space. We are not a big percentage of the global population.
Very little.
Very little. Mm-hmm. And, I've heard people say, oh, they won't let us no, they don't have a problem with that because it's such a small, minuscule amount. If you have the foresight to see what's coming and you're able to get into it, I think they're thinking, well, hey, these people at least had the brains enough to see what's going on. They'll get through the gate. But one day, that gate is definitely going to close. I absolutely believe that.
That's your reset.
100%. The opportunity will be gone. That's what I think.
The window's closing very fast, actually. And one of the ways the window is closing is through inflation. If they can devalue the purchasing power, you're forced to not just sell assets to pay for the higher price of groceries and goods and services, but also you can't invest. All your money is going to bills. And that's really what's happening. So something positive, though, what can people do to survive? What I'm encouraging a lot of my clients now is to really streamline their businesses or services online, because that's really where the job market is. If you actually look at today's job market, it's being replaced by artificial intelligence, by technology, and other people are being forced to leave their jobs because the pay is not really meeting with the inflation, right? So it's important to get ahead of the game, and that is streamlining your business. I told my friends in the phone business 2 years ago, before I sold my shop, to quickly sell your business and get into something that's cheaper, like an online business, streamline that stuff, because what's going to happen is as more people get laid off, and let me tell you something, people are working 3-4 jobs right now, and that's why the job market looks good. It's all bullshit, okay? They're doing that to fabricate the whole numbers and everything so people don't panic as they accelerate the transition. So if you want to get ahead of the game, you got to streamline your business. You really have to. That's the way the world's going. And if you don't, you're going to be at a point where, whether it's a crisis that unfolds first or something else, everybody is going to be fighting for the same jobs. And that's what I'm telling and encouraging people to do. So whether it's a website, a YouTube channel, whatever you do, just before the whole world catches on, you need to stay ahead. That's one. Second thing, yeah, it's really good advice. The second thing is, I saw in the comments somebody says they can't wait. I've been waiting almost 5 years, and I really don't care. I've been waiting, but while I'm waiting on it, I'm not depending on it to hit 10,000 overnight, which it still could do. You never know when this system goes live. Like, I mean, all the way. You need to invest in other things. Like, I don't know. Right now, I'm telling some people who have lots of money, and I know the stock market is risky, but energy is going to blow up between now and next year, whether we have a war or not. But energy is really what's driving this entire transformation, the whole quantum computers, the AI. So energy is a good investment between now and like the next 5 years, I would say. And other assets out there like Velo, we talked about this before 3 months ago. Look what Velo did. It popped. Remember that, David? So took some profits from that. Yeah, I remember that. Took some profits, got right back in. But that was funny. They didn't send the money until after the pop happened. And I was like, oh shit.
But then it even blew up even from there. So
yeah, it did.
So
it
that
came
was
back down.
That was a good move for sure. One thing, and I'd throw this in there, like with respect to this whole, when we see the amount of real jobs that are going to be consumed by AI and all these other things, this is where I think they're going to introduce universal basic income. Yeah. And this is another way I think they're going to be able to control the masses. If you do not have, that personal net worth of your own, and you're encumbered in the debt system that they've kept everybody in, then I think that's going to lead to a pathway of slavery when they eventually do introduce, because the world is due for this big change. And it is going to impact a lot of people. Most people are not pivoting. They're not transitioning like you had said there. And I do believe that this is where they're going to introduce this whole UBI concept. And it will be different in different sectors around the world. But the whole concept behind it is the same. It's going to make people beholden to the state, beholden to the system. Mm-hmm. And this is
already happened, by the way.
Yeah, they're going to drag into slavery.
Already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's already happened. People are dependent on credit cards just to buy goods and services. And then next month, when the bill comes in, the interest rate, I don't care if they've lowered the interest rate. The currency is devalued, so it doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. You're stuck deeper and deeper into debt. It's a debt trap. It really is. And this debt trap, people are saying there's going to be a debt jubilee. I don't believe in that crap, okay? And let me explain something. If there is a debt jubilee, one man's debts is somebody else's assets. So you have to ask yourself who is benefiting the most from this. You have to ask the right questions. Now, another thing is, as inflation continues to go higher, you have to remember you have to take profits. And I don't mean to say take profits from your XRP if you're waiting for the long game, but you got to take profits from other projects out there. There's a lot of opportunity in the crypto market still. And I'm not talking about shit coins. I'm talking about coins with real use case, real utility. I think SHX is one of them. We've talked about this in the past. It did pump once. I took some profits as well. Velo popped. I took some profits. Caspa popped. I took profits. And I had to pay tax on that, unfortunately. Okay. I understand that, but I'm racing inflation, which is not stopping. So we don't have a choice. But I have diversified my portfolio for a long time now. So I wouldn't have to touch XRP or XLM, and I can touch these other things and still profit from them in the meantime. At the same time, I'm overworking myself. I really am, guys. I'm overworking myself in so many ways you have no idea, doing multiple things simultaneously. But that's me just trying to survive. My point, though, is that sacrifice is buying me the time I need to not worry about this transition as much as the average individual does. But I am slaving for it. Believe me when I say this. I am so tired, but I don't have a choice. So I've adopted to a degree where I'm using the technology to make me more money and buy me the time I need to at least stand still until all of this unfolds. But I'll tell you, it's getting tougher.
Edo, get in here, man. We need to hear from you, man.
Sorry, man. Yeah, I apologize. hijacking the
I was
conversation
just
as I
listening,
always
you
do.
know. Sometimes I like to go on listening mode. I know Bersan was not here, I think, for 2 weeks, and he had a lot to say. So I was just paying attention, and I totally agree. The currencies are getting devaluated to a degree that is scary. You know, I don't know how the average person is surviving out there. And that's not only in the US, that's the same situation in Europe. And I saw you putting some picture of the groceries person a couple of days ago, right? And it just comes to a point where I have the feeling, and I am in Europe, so I talk in euros, right? That 100 euros can barely get you through the week. And have in mind that most European countries, people are earning no more than 1,000 euros per month. So situation is very critical, and people are getting trapped in the debt cycle. People are having to cut off on the most basic things. So when you have someone that is actually saving on food, it becomes very difficult for them to make the right choices, especially in regards to investments, right? If people are struggling to survive, how can you talk about crypto? How can you talk about digital assets? So the average person will not even have access to digital assets. So that's a very sad outcome. Now, someone in the comments has asked me about the Rothschilds' ownership over XRP, and that's actually through SBI. So I have shared on my X. I just reposted an old thread. So if you are
Oh,
curious about that,
let me
you
pull
can
this
just go
down.
to my X account. Yeah, I also have something here that I want to put on the screen very quickly,
Go ahead.
which is about uh, actually this I just shared. It's actually I'm gonna delete this tweet. It was only with the purpose of sharing here with you. So this is actually when the SEC lawsuit came out. And what you guys notice here, this is about the XRP wallets. So if you notice the pattern is that the amounts of XRP from the 0.1% wallets and on started to decrease, while the 0.001% were actually increasing their XRP positions. What a coincidence, right? In the same week that they have filed the SEC lawsuit against Ripple, XRP plumps below 20 cents. It made the bottom around 17 cents. And very interesting, the 0.01% were actually buying more XRP, while retail investors were panic selling in losses. So that's for me the ultimate proof that this whole lawsuit is just noise, and the price action is dictated by trading boots, is also dictated by the large wallets, and there is a lot of people benefiting from this lawsuit actually extending itself. That's why we might expect 1 or more 2 years of lawsuit when we already know the outcome. XRP is not a security. That's why I'm not paying attention anymore to whatever is being told about the SEC
And the
lawsuit.
price
That's
isn't
just
paying
noise. That's just
attention.
Let me pull this up for people
the
to read
price is
as
already
well.
recovering, and even
You remember this, guys? See,
I can, yeah, it's on the
my
screen.
cousin, um, he really dug deep to find this. Now, this goes back to 2015. And there are people out there that say some of these documents are old news. Well, let me clarify something. Just because something's old doesn't mean it's not relevant. In fact, a lot of the news that we talked about a decade ago and things that were unfolding a decade ago are actually unfolding in real time today. So just because something's new, old, don't disregard it. My point, though, if you look at this document, and I have the whole thing, but several investment banks, including Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan, R3 Corda, they talk about in there, and focused blockchain firms such as Ripple Labs could play a major role here. So they've been setting the stage again. And hence what I said, the title as well, this drama with the SEC is only going to push Ripple into the hands of BRICS. And the BRICS nations are the ones leading the economic reset. America, the European Union, they're fighting for their lives right now. Okay. And I do believe it's being orchestrated, but that's how they're selling it, the narrative, basically.
Yeah.
That they're fighting for survival. And they're going to point fingers at China, Iran, and Russia. Even all of this shit has been planned out. And the majority of the people in the case of a major attack in the US, are going to follow in that narrative. They're going to fall in line, just like what we saw with 9/11. And the truth is, it was your own government that did it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see someone in here, they made a comment where it says, buy Ripple stock and hodl that, not XRP. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm an owner of private equity in Ripple, but I also hold significant positions in XRP because you can literally see, yes, Ripple as a company, you know, they have this, but the rails are built on the XRP ledger. Don't kid yourself. That narrative right there has been sold by Bitcoin maxis forever. Oh, it's Ripple's good, XRP bad. And it's just such
It's very
idiotic
stupid.
nonsense because that's like saying, oh, well, you know, invest in Starlink and Tesla and all this and this and that, but you know, ignore the technology that's being used that the company is actually making in order to revolutionize the way the future is going to be unfolding. Like, it's just, you know, it's crazy thinking.
If you don't mind me saying, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say this is one of the only opportunities that retail has ever had in the history of global finance to front run institutions in a massive way. And they are slowly closing that door. Look at the legislation. I have clients tell me that their banks in the UK and in different European countries are refusing to even allow them to interact with digital assets. Yet the very banks that are refusing to allow them access are hog wild in it themselves.
That's right. Yep.
Canada put out legislation that you couldn't invest more than 30,000 Canadian dollars in an annual year. Well, I know that sounds like a lot to, you know, the average person, but realistically, that is just a sliver of an amount that institutions are doing on a daily basis. You look at the top 10, 20 for market cap in this space, billions upon billions upon billions of dollars are getting traded daily. You think that's retail?
Mm-hmm. It's all institution, and they're the ones driving it. Yep. And it's very similar to when people say, go ahead.
I have a very funny story, by the way. And just when they dropped that, we can sometimes forget how things work. Just when they dropped the SEC lawsuit, do you guys remember they halted XRP trading in the US?
Yep.
So basically Americans couldn't get access to XRP, how quickly they can do that. And very interesting, exactly on that day, it was when something really filled me and said, I need to buy as much XRP as I can. And immediately I made a transfer of $10,000 from my bank in Europe, it's Santander. And I actually got the transfer blocked. And I actually walked to the agency and I say, well, I'm trying to make a transfer and that's my money. And I was sending to some exchange. I think it was Coinbase back on the time. And they didn't allow me to transfer 10,000 euros. And that was a very strategic moment to buy XRP. So basically, I had to go through a lot of bureaucracy. And by the way, back on the time, Santander was already Ripple's partner. So you have a company that's teaming up with Ripple. And at the same time, they don't want you to use your own money to buy XRP. How interesting is that? And now if you look for Santander, is also a major sponsor of the crypto events in Europe. So the contradictions are unbelievable. And trust me, there will come a time where they have a switch that they can flip and people are not going to be able to buy XRP. And that's already happened in the past.
Well, they can do it. You know, this whole flip a switch, I see a lot of people talk about this, but it actually could be a reality too. If the stage has already been set and all the technology has been adopted by the central banks, all they got to do is turn it on before all the value starts flowing through that, right? Which would, of course, increase its price. And touching on what David said a minute ago, when people said buy Ripple stock, not XRP. Well, where do you think Ripple derives its value from? From the XRP ledger, right? It's the same people who are out there saying that, and I saw this comment multiple times, no one's going to use XRP, period. They're using real USD. Well, real USD was built on the XRP ledger. Now they're talking about building a real yen, a real euro. stable coins are going to be built for the countries on the XRP ledger. And that's how they're going to strategically do this. So I put a tweet out the other day. I said, just watch as they embrace stable coins built on the XRP ledger. We know what they're doing here. So it's obvious. Come on, right? How hard is it to put the dots? The whole SEC Ripple thing is drama for clicks.
Yep, it's obvious.
I guess you fixed your mic, David.
Oh, it's up now?
Yeah, and I hear myself echo.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is. I've been, I think because I came on late. Sorry, guys, if that's actually happened because I came in late.
There's like a buzzing sound. Sorry about that.
I'm employing the echo cancellation.
Now it's working good, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, the beautiful thing about this is this conversation can go on and on forever.
Yeah.
We know there's so much. I encourage people to listen to some of our other conversations. We've covered so much, and pretty much everything, and I'm not bragging here, but everything we've said is actually playing out in real time. And you guys already know this, the audience. So I'm just so humbled that we have a community that would listen and actually, fit into this conversation with us.
Right.
I mean, that's really important to me. It means so much. I put a nice message out there telling everybody how much I love them from the bottom of my heart. And I mean that.
I agree.
Never met you face to face, but I love you because, it's our way of thinking. It tells me again, what kind of person you really are out there. And, money guys is really just, it's probably the most important thing going on in our lives right now, but it's just the surface of the conversation.
Yeah.
Somebody even asked me to talk about consciousness on this podcast, and I'd be happy to, but maybe another time.
Yeah, we're into this an hour and 15 almost. And, but these are discussions like when we get together, we can easily, talk 1, 2, maybe even 3 hours on this stuff. And, because we can see this is probably one of the most exciting periods in history that most people have ever got to live through. Most people have never lived through a genuine monetary and societal reset like what we're, literally getting to live through. And it is exciting because you're seeing the unfolding of these events happen in real time. And it is just wild to watch. And so, but I agree. I value the community so much. I oftentimes say, I threw this out in Coffee Chat this morning in my podcast. We make the content, but you guys out there, you're the ones making the community. And that is such a big deal for us. Big deal.
It's very true. Absolutely.
So that'll be my last words, I think.
Well, and by the way, if we take the audience, I mean, combining my channel with Versan's YouTube channel, Vandel's, and also David, I think nowadays it's safe to say that the Turning Point has become the #1 podcast that people listen to on the XRP ledger regarding XRP and digital assets in general. So I'm very happy. And first, I think we have to say a special thanks for the audience, because that would not be possible without every single one of you. And trust me, we read through the comments and there is a lot of kindness. So it's very happy. And before I give the final words to Versan, I think my final words would be, don't wait to buy XRP. Buy XRP and wait. And while you are waiting, then find other ways to make money on the way. That's very tied to what Versan was saying before. You do have many mechanisms nowadays. I think position yourself with a strong social media presence is very important. AI is gonna wipe out a lot of jobs. And I mean, if I would to have, I don't have children yet, but if I would have, I would not even send them to the university. I mean, thinking of how many people are actually getting a degree, which is going to be basically useless. It's just going to be a piece of paper. Because honestly, I don't want to give numbers here, but a vast majority of jobs are going to get wiped out. And David said before, they want us to own nothing. So do the opposite. Start taking ownership of everything you can by digital assets. I also encourage people to go in real estate. I think the US is not the best market, but expand geographically if that's necessary. I moved to Greece specifically because of real estate. I think you have many options at a world scale. I think owning land it's also very important. If you can own a piece of land that you have fresh water, and then jump to precious metals, well, you can't afford gold, that's fine, you have silver. I myself have been stacking up on silver every month. I pay myself with silver, and also digital assets. I have my XRP, but I also have other digital assets. I'm very well diversified. I don't rely solely on XRP, even though, yes, XRP is my main holding. And as we said, it can go to $10,000 overnight, but don't wait, because it might take a bit more of time. So what are you going to wait for? You can diversify your portfolio. You can buy other assets like Velo, SHX, which, by the way, Versan got me a call a couple of months ago and say, have a look at SHX. I think it's going to make a great move. I dropped like 2 or 3K there, and in just a couple of days, I made tremendous profits, and then took these profits out, diversified on real estate, diversified in other assets, used some liquidity for paying bills that I also have to pay. And I think ultimately, you have so many choices, so don't just wait and sit. You have to be more active. And yes, XRP is the most important one. Have your cold wallets. Store your keys safely. Don't have a digital copy. And that's what's going to make you thrive on the long term. So these are my final thoughts. And Versan?
Yeah, well, piece of information, man. My God, you guys, I have so much I want to say. I think we're done. But piece of information, I think it's important to have at least 2 or 3 hardware wallets. I have, like I said, 8, and I'm a little crazy like that. I want to have everything split into multiple, Faraday bags, hardware wallets, just in case, for the sake of discussion. Anything happens, right, in this crazy world we live in. I have multiple. What else? Hard assets. Those who own hard assets are going to really benefit the most from all of this. If everything's going digital, hard assets are going to become more valuable naturally. Gold, silver. Andy Schectman was on last week. He said that they're getting wiped out. Somebody's buying everything. We know who that is. It's probably the central banks. So you got to do your part. Of course, hard assets, I think, are going to increase in value dramatically. Gold, silver also protects you from the digital infrastructure, despite the fact you still can make money. And that's why they're trying to eliminate cash, because they want to make sure they can watch everything you buy. So yeah, maybe next week we can talk about the whole on and off ramps. That's something I do want to talk about. Final message really is just to keep your head above all the noise, and just knowing the end game is there. Diversify your portfolio. Don't give up. Have hope. So that's pretty much my final thoughts, guys. And of course, much love to the whole community. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Really appreciate everybody.
We're good.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to tap here to comments.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you.